Hi, everybody. We felt it was appropriate this evening to come on and talk a little bit about the news of the class of 2024 Baseball Hall of Fame. It was announced this evening. I'm Nick. We have Brendan also here tonight. Brendan, first off, how are we doing? And then we'll jump into talking about our three selections this year for class of 2024. How are we doing?
Yeah, Nick. I'm doing fine. Winter weekend just happened. That was a crazy thing that we're gonna get into probably in a couple days. Yeah, disappointed in the Sox, but happy today with celebrating the Hall of Fame, of course. Yeah, it's been a slow off season, but we're working our way towards spring training, and we'll cover the team from there, right?
Yeah, we will. We will be talking about the winter weekend this week. This week at some point, it was ugly as expected. There is
Pitchforks.
no. I'm hopeless right now on what the future is going to hold for that. But for tonight's show, we do want to talk about the three selections that were voted into the Hall of Fame, and there are some names that are going to come up that we're going to talk about and see if they're going to hit at some point getting into the Hall. But first and foremost, let's talk about our one-year wonder on the Red Sox, which we wish was here longer than that one season. Adrian Beltre, no
Dominated.
question asked about it. I love that his style of play. And that is one player growing up as a kid. I believe he was here for the 2010 season.
That's correct.
It was underappreciated.
Oh,
Underappreciated
definitely.
because you had him and you let him walk. It was a 1 year deal that was signed. It was a kind of prove it deal, and boy did he prove it. And then from here on out, Rangers, and I strongly feel he'll probably go in the Hall of Fame with a Rangers hat on. That's where most of his damage and
Yeah.
everything was done. But I'm assuming for you, hands down, no question asked, Hall of Fame.
Oh, I'd say so. I think, yeah, I mean, he dominated the vote already, but I remember like moving on when he was with the Red Sox, he was a great player, but they kind of treat him like a journeyman, one and done
Yeah.
for Beltre, who goes into Hall of Fame almost, you're not going to say unanimous, but 95% of the vote, he dominated, goes on to Texas and destroys. So I'm happy for him, definitely. And yeah, like he did great. He deserved it. The people that did get in definitely deserved it. Um, but people are gonna look at the names below and they're gonna have some questions. But like it's young. It's early in the voting for a lot of these guys in the Hall of Fame.
So for Adrian Beltre, he came up with, do we have the percentage?
Yeah, I think it was 95%,
About
ninety five
95% is
95.1.
what yep, 95.1. First time on the ballot. Congratulations to him. That's awesome.
Definitely.
Let's
Yeah.
talk about Joe Mauer next. Joe Mauer, catcher, and then kind of moved over to that DH first base style for the Twins. I always wanted Joe Mauer on my team. I always did. I always thought he could be that next Jason Varitek type, a guy that was so well respected, in my eyes, very underrated. We didn't get a chance to see him as much because he was in the Central with the Twins for all those many years. But it was the M&M boys, not the Mantle and Maris. It was the Justin Morneau and Joe Mauers. Um, I wish his career lasted a little longer. That's the thing with catchers, especially in this day and age. A little point at Buster Posey, whose name will be coming up in the next year or two, but their careers don't last that long. And I wish Joe Mauer's lasted a little longer, but you have to tip your cap. I mean, look at what he put up number wise and everything. First time on the selection list, going right into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
What stood out to you in Joe Mauer's career? I'm assuming Hall of Famer for you as well.
Oh, I'd say so. I think he definitely deserved it as well. I mean, he also 76.1% of the vote. I thought also just the ability to switch, it's tough for a catcher, especially to have a very good longevity career wise. Very physical, demanding position. And the ability to also bring in first base for the Twins.
He was a
He's
leader.
definitely like a staple Hall of Famer for Minnesota, and then right in Cooperstown where he belongs. I say so.
So he
I
just
approve.
got in. Again, the threshold is, I think it's 75.6, something like that. You have to get in. Joe Mauer got 293 votes for 76.1% and gets himself right in. I want to shift gears next to Mr. Coors Field, a
Yeah.
guy that when I was a kid, he was like the National League comparison to Nomar, because I'll never forget that 2000 season. The both of them hit 372. Obviously, Todd Helton is the name that I'm going to bring up next, first baseman for the Rockies. 372 was also his average from everything that was there. A guy that we didn't get a chance to see much of because, again, West Coast wasn't a part of our television screens growing up as kids and everything. But again, a guy that I absolutely had on my list as a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I mean, this guy I don't know as much, especially like 2000. I was coming up on 1 years old, so I didn't know him
Oh, come
as
on, Brendan.
well.
You know him.
A little too young for Todd Helton, but
Yeah.
honestly, I give him props. I respect the numbers that he brought to the Rockies. The Sox did meet the Rockies in the World Series um, later on, but I don't know him as well as some of the guys that got snubbed, but I give him respect, definitely.
So, again, we got three Hall of Famers: Adrian Beltre, Todd Helton, Joe Mauer are this year's 2024 selections going to Cooperstown. But now it's time to talk about a couple people that you might have had on your list and then some snubs. A couple I had on my list. Number one that was not selected. Hey, I'm a Red Sox guy. First and foremost, I think you know who I'm going to say. I know
I
he
know.
has the PEDs and steroid kind of cloud under him, but there was no other hitter right-handed that I would have rather had on my team with Manny Ramirez. He
They've
had the
never
best right
found
hand and swing
anyone
that I
close
have
to him
ever seen. Manny Ramirez should be a Hall of Famer. I'm not saying I'm
easily.
pro steroids. I just want to make sure that's crystal clear. But the one thing that I have to say on this whole steroid thing, if there's speculation on stuff like this, you still have to swing a bat. You still have to swing a bat. You still have to produce and you still have to perform. Whether you took something or not, you can't erase history. You just can't. You can't just say, oh, screw 1996, 7 on all the way up until 2010 ish. You can't do that. You can't just say, oh, whatever. These guys still went out. They still produced. They still were able to put up their numbers. I am not saying that yes, they cheated. Maybe they get a little star, a little asterisk that says something there, but they still were incredible, some of these guys that came through. So Manny's one of my snubs. Not a Yankee fan in the least bit. I can't stand
I
this
know
guy
he's coming.
personally. Alex Rodriguez is a Hall of Famer, folks. And I'm also going to say, because they're not on the ballot anymore because of that 10-year plateau, Barry Bonds is a Hall of Famer. Kurt Schilling is a Hall of Famer. Rafi Palmeiro is a Hall of Famer. Some of those guys, to name a few. McGuire, you can have a debate and question about. Sammy Sosa in that same realm. Another name, Gary Sheffield.
I was gonna say that.
Gary Sheffield. I honestly don't think is a Hall of Famer because I can't stand the guy. I think he belongs in
Okay.
the Hall of Shame because I think he's a dirtbag. He got 246 votes at 63.9%. The biggest notable that will most likely be going into the Hall of Fame, he just came up a little bit short, was Billy Wagner. He had
Yeah.
284 votes. He had 73.8%. Going down the list again, you had Andrew Jones. I love the glove. He was great during the beginning parts of his career and then dipped off significantly. One of the best, if not the best, center field glove I've ever seen in my life. Andrew Jones with 234 votes at 61.6%. Carlos Beltran, another guy who I look at, I don't know if you do, Brendan, as a winner, a guy who was clutch, kind of in that David Ortiz realm. 220 votes at 57.1%. And then it goes down. So A-Rod had 34.8. Manny was 32.5. Chase Utley, 28.8. Omar Vizquel, 17.7. Great glove for shortstop, by the way. Bobby Abreu, 14.8. Jimmy Rollins, 14.8. Andy Pettit, 13.5. Mark Burley, 8.3%. Frankie Rodriguez, there's a guy that actually was on my initial voting list. Only got 30 votes at 7.8. I do think with time, his numbers will go up. One of the best closers in there, and he's over 400 career saves. So that's a big stat and very similar to Billy Wagner. And Torrey Hunter, 28 votes at 7.3. And last but not least, David Wright with 24 votes at 6.2%. So that's where we were at with the Hall of Fame votes. Brendan, any final thoughts real quick?
Yeah, I mean, my last thing, we're the Red Sox podcast, and Manny Ramirez, the Red Sox don't win without him. Manny was so huge in what he brought. For David Ortiz, especially protection-wise, they don't get it done. They don't get it done without him. I think he's a massive part in what the Red Sox did. So he should be in there within the next few years.
See, I think it's going to take a little bit of time, and I'm actually sadly probably leaning towards if these voters, some of them I can't stand. Imagine being a media member that you get to vote some of these
Yeah,
schmucks that are out there that hardly do a damn thing. I think Manny's going to have to be on the Barry Bonds list, unfortunately, and the Kurt Schilling
that'd be
list. It's going
brutal.
to have to be a veterans thing. It's sad, but that's probably what's there. The one player out of all of this that I will say in Red Sox history that I do wish was a part of the Baseball Hall of Fame, and I think we'll get some love on this comment that I will say is Dwight Evans. Looking at the numbers and everything that you see, especially in this day and age with baseball, Dwight Evans is a Hall of Famer. I'm sorry that it's insane that he is not there. This guy's numbers are right on par with some of these people that are going into the Hall, and Dwight Evans should be there. And the other name I will also put in there is Louis Tiant. Louis Tiant is also not a Baseball Hall of Famer. Another guy that I think should be in consideration at some point. The last thing I'll say before we wrap up, as we continue to talk about some snubs, I was a Nomar kid growing up. I just wish that
Yeah, what the
guy.
heck?
I just
He's
wish his
due.
career was longer. I wish it was longer. I don't know if he's going to get in at any point, but it would have to go in through the Veterans Committee again. Those are just some names off the top of my head for some different things. But
Matt Holliday, Jose Bautista fall off of the ballot actually because they had a less than a 5% vote, which is
they
kind of
should.
wild to
They
me.
should. They should. They're not Hall of Famers. They're not.
Just
Hall of
stars
Good.
from my childhood.
Hall of Good. Sure. But we're
But
talking
yeah, no,
about
I get that.
the fame. That's going to do it here for our Baseball Hall of Fame edition of the show. We will be back at some point this week to talk more about next steps for the Red Sox this offseason, the winter weekend debacle, and more. We'll see you all soon.